Hello, welcome to Search with Sean, and this is again part of our Chat with Sean series where we chat with great people across the digital marketing landscape, experts in their field, their stuff, and obviously, we've done a few of these now, and talking of which, we were with James Brockbank last week. Obviously, you should know him. He's in all the main publications and across all the main talks in Brighton SEO and stuff like that. So we just kind of covered a lot of what's going on, obviously, with Google, the spam reputation, the site reputation abuse policy, everything around that. And we also discussed the art of backlink building. Obviously, it builds into kind of what this talk is going to be about, but just about the relevance of backlinking and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, and he knows his stuff. And if that interests you, I suggest you go and watch that video, and I'll put a link somewhere here. Definitely check that one out. And also, I know it's been in the pipeline for a while, but I've been trying to find dates, and the first 2 dates have been put in place now for Search with Sean Live, which obviously just a kind of free streamed event where we got a number of kind of pre-recorded videos from industry experts talking about different subjects in digital marketing. I've seen them so far, and they're such a wide variety. It's really, really fascinating. I've learned loads already myself. So I'm really looking forward to streaming those. And I've got so many that it will probably be more than these 2 days. But the first 2 days will be the 17th and the 20th December. And it'll be streamed across YouTube and LinkedIn. But I'm just working things out because LinkedIn's streaming policies aren't as easy as YouTube. So, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's going to be really exciting. So, and they'll be recorded so you can watch them back anyway. So don't worry about that. And that's it pretty much in terms of admin on my side. So I'll first now introduce today's great guest. Really looking forward to this one. And so today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jane Hunt, a digital PR expert and co-founder of JBH, an award-winning PR and SEO agency with offices in Manchester and London. She is also the author of the Digital PR Playbook, a comprehensive guide on strategies and tactics for successful digital PR campaigns. And Jane also hosts the Missing Link webinar series, providing honest insights into the world of digital PR, featuring a diverse range of industry experts. And I'll say hi first, and then we go on to something else we've got lined up. But hi, Jane, thanks for joining me. Really excited about this one.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for that intro as well.
No, my pleasure. And just so this is the book. Let's get it. And I've just been discussing with Jane, but I've been a bit on my deathbed the last week. The kids gave me a virus, but so I haven't dug into it as much as I want to. But the book so far looks really awesome, and if digital PR really interests you, and it should in today's world, in marketing, then it looks awesome. And we will be giving away at least a couple of copies of the book. So if you're interested in that, then do follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll have more information about how you can pick up one of those copies. But if obviously you're not lucky in that competition, then I still suggest you go and get the book, because from what I've just read so far, I've learned so much already, just in that brief moments I've been able to keep awake and not dying on my bed from the virus. Pleasure to have you, Jane, and let's get cracking on the topics, I guess.
Cool, thank you.
So I guess the first one is an easy one, I guess. So what prompted you to write the Digital PR Playbook, and what are the key insights you hope readers will gain from it?
Yeah, so this kind of stemmed from a conversation I had with our digital PR director, Rebecca Moss, about 5 or 6 years ago now, when we first established the digital PR team. A long time ago, we were thinking how cool it would be if there was a book on digital PR. And, you know, even last year when we revisited this conversation, there still wasn't like a comprehensive book on digital PR. You know, you've got content marketing covered, traditional PR, SEO, hundreds of them, but there was nothing really for digital PR. So we thought, well, this is our opportunity to write this book and to get this information out there, because I feel like there's a lot of misunderstandings about what digital PR actually is. So I hope this goes some way into explaining what it is, the benefits of it, and how you can actually use it too.
Yeah, great. I guess a bit off. I haven't noted this, so just throwing a curveball in there. But when you write a book, do you get, especially in fast-moving industries, do you get concerned that maybe by the time you've done the book, it comes out of date before you've even like, do you know what I mean? Because that's what I would be worried about writing any sort of, any book about that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it took a year to put together, which was longer than I anticipated. I thought in my head, yeah, if everyone writes a chapter, you know, we'll put it together quite quickly, and, you know, we'll just get it published through Amazon and stuff. And actually, it took a lot longer than I expected. Then it had to be edited, proofread. Then you needed like indexes and all the other things that go with it. And then you need people to review it. So I don't want to do the second edition just yet because things have changed. But actually, I think the principles in there and the tactics will remain for a while. Obviously, there's things going on in the search landscape that are evolving. However, I think digital PR, when done really well, will actually help kind of overcome some of those challenges and will actually help brands stand out in the future.
Yeah, 100. And what I've seen, it's like I say, it's really, really great. And I said to you off camera that you know, the fact that you got kind of insights from different people in the book as well, and great sort of examples in there, I think really helps understand the issues and stuff that you're discussing. So yeah, and like you say, there's SEO books galore, but I mean, I'm not like into digital PR as much as, for example, yourself, but yeah, I haven't seen as many books about, if any, about it. So yeah, good point. So what metrics do you consider most important when evaluating success of digital PR campaigns? Has this also changed recently at all?
So we look at a variety of metrics. So in the past, you know, traditionally, you'd look at kind of the typical SEO metrics for digital PR for link building, such as kind of domain authority, domain rating, the type of link it is, whether it's follow, no follow, or brand mention. You'd look at kind of the relevance of it and also where it points to on our client's website now too. So does it point to the homepage or does it point to a commercial page, which is really important. And then also over time, we're looking at any kind of ranking and traffic increases as a result, because overall, that's what we're aiming for. And then additionally to that, we also look at brand metrics, because we realize when we're building links, we also have the opportunity to build brand awareness, credibility, and trust as well. And as well as engaging people. So these are all kind of key things that we consider. So we also have we have two key metrics, traditional PR ones and the brand ones. So the brand one looks at kind of the messaging, the sentiment, so whether it's positive or negative, whether it includes any key stakeholders. So are we kind of helping build kind of profiles of people that work for that organization? Does that add more credibility to what we're saying, etc.? And then off the back of that, we're looking at any increases in kind of social media reach and also kind of brand share of search too. So those are the two kind of key things that we measure all of our links based on, and we give each one of those a score. And then we also look at kind of the commercial impact of what we do. So we realize that, in order to kind of keep getting budget for digital PR, we need to be having a commercial impact or a wider impact than kind of purely building a quantity of links. So for example, not only are we kind of building, increasing rankings and traffic, but are we impacting inquiries and sales? And we can do this, so sometimes we can engineer a campaign to, 2 commercial pages that can directly impact these things. And we can also look at increasing email subscribers, social media reach, and many other things within marketing. So our goal isn't just to build links, it's to see what else we can have impact on that really shows the wider value of digital PR.
Yeah, I think James said last week, the link building for the sake of it is just,
it's pointless for the sake of it.
Yeah, you need to have a strategy behind it, unless you're just wasting money and you're wasting time. So yeah, 100%. And how do you ensure that creative digital PR campaigns also meet performance objectives and align with clients' commercial goals? I guess obviously you touched upon it there, but yeah, how do you kind of make sure that they're all aligned and you meet them?
Yeah, so there's a couple of specific things that we do. And so this is in no particular order. So I just made some notes earlier. So we ensure that any creative campaigns are posted on the website with the most relevant folder. Okay, so a creative campaign about vans, for example, for our client Select Car Leasing was posted under the /van leasing /folder on the website, so that any link equity can filter through to the commercial pages really easily. We also agree with the brand kind of where the focus should be and stick to it for a few good months. So rather than flip-flopping between keywords and landing pages, we need that kind of sustained approach so that Google will notice as part of the EAT algorithm and reward kind of the site accordingly. We also, when we create campaigns, kind of look at topical analysis or trends and news cycles and any emerging themes and combine it with technical SEO insight around those keyword rankings. And that's to ensure that the work we produce is really relevant to the brand, to their target audience that we want to reach, and topical enough for the press to cover it in a way that will really boost those SEO signals. And then we also ensure that any kind of creative content appears on site is really optimized with headings and internal links to commercial pages. So again, all that link equity kind of follows through to those relevant pages, and that campaign will have the most commercial impact possible.
It's again a bit wasn't in the plans, but this comes to my mind. How long do you give it until you decide that it's not meeting those kind of goals? Or do you call it or do you switch kind of strategy? How long do you go after it?
We never call it a day because, touch wood, we've never had a campaign. Well, we haven't in the last few years had a campaign that hasn't earned any links. You have some campaigns that are a bit slower than others that maybe don't have the pickup you expect. But then you need to kind of look at your campaign, see what else you can do with it. And, 99% of the time for us, it's a data-led campaign. And we've got multiple data sets, which means you've got lots of different angles in there. So you can target different types of publications and sectors. So there should always be other opportunities in there. And then also you're also following the news and you're looking for any kind of newsjacking opportunities for that campaign too. So that's where other types of digital PR tactics can come in. And so a campaign might be quite slow until something goes on in the news that's really timely and relevant. You're like, right, now we can piggyback this onto what's going on and, add to that conversation. And then a campaign might really take off, for example. So it's all about kind of making sure you're making the most of your opportunities. You've got lots of data in there, lots of angles, and you're not just kind of pigeonholing your campaign into kind of one sector or one story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I like, if I was a client and, you're getting backlinks, that's great, but I'm not seeing an increase in sales or email signups or whatever it is, downloads or whatever. what would you then kind of just say, well, stick with it because it might take time to see that come through, or what would be the reaction?
It depends on the objectives of the campaign. So we've had some campaigns, for example, like we did a dream job campaign where we offered people the opportunity to become an Espresso Martini tester for a year and get paid for it. And that did very well. It was a very simple premise. Basically, all they had to do was go onto obviously the client's site, fill in a form, and then obviously and then enter or click to be on their newsletter as well. So by doing this campaign, it was great for social media because it's something fun. Everyone loves an espresso martini. Well, most people love an espresso martini. And we were able to really optimize it for specific commercial objectives. So obviously it linked through to the Espresso Martini product page, which immediately increased sales. It also got people to sign up to their email list. So they got an increase in subscribers, plus they got an increase in sales from those new subscribers. And it also did well on social media. So you're kind of ticking off a few of these boxes with some very simple tactics where you've optimized that campaign for specific things. But not all campaigns kind of lend themselves to that. So you'll have some campaigns that might just be kind of data-led, but they might be quite entertaining. So, for example, we did a campaign for an online learning brand called Preply. And the campaign, it was a data-led campaign, and it ranked the most and least rudest cities in the UK. And surprisingly, Manchester came out on top as the rudest city. Now, I thought it was going to be London, having lived in London and also lived in Manchester. But, surprisingly, it was Manchester. So it surprised people when we pitched it. It got picked up, by the nationals and by the regionals because we're talking about specific places in the country. And then it also got picked up on social media, specifically by Lad Bible. And so there was so much debate and comments, not all of them kind of anything that you could show, but it was some lively debate, put it that way. And so it got picked up by them, and it was just an amazing campaign because, it reached a new audience for them, and it got people talking about the brand and engaging kind of with them. So it was a different campaign and different objectives, but commercially successful.
Yeah, great. And well, I love an espresso martini myself, and also having lived in Manchester and London as well, I'm surprised by that result as well.
We did double check the data.
Yeah, what was I going to say as well? Yeah, I mean, like you say, building backlinks to something is only half the job. You've got to make sure the content is actually, like you say, optimized. The UX is spot on, the call to actions are there. Because without that, it's just all like with anything. You could drive the traffic, but they got to do something with it. And that's so spot on. So in terms of we've done that. Sorry. So can you share some strategies that you've that have proven particularly effective in earning quality backlinks and enhancing brand visibility? Obviously, you just gave a couple of great examples there, but if you got any more, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a range of tactics we use at JBH. We don't just do kind of hero campaigns, for example. We kind of borrow from traditional PR, and we do obviously the newsjacking that I've mentioned. We do proactive PR, so looking at the calendar ahead to see what what seasonal days or national holidays or whatever is going on that we can kind of link our client to and actually pre-plan stories to pitch. And then we've got kind of feature pitching, and feature pitching is very traditional PR led. So this is all about putting, a really good quality story together, something kind of unique that you're not sending to everybody. So it might be an exclusive for a journalist, say you want kind of, so you like coverage and links on the Telegraph, for example, you might put together a specific case study that will resonate better with their audience that's very targeted for that journalist. So we did this really successfully for a rehab clinic who specialized in alcohol and drug addiction therapies, and they had some amazing case studies. So it's rare that you can, use somebody that's had that kind of experience, that's overcome kind of some kind of dependency. But, some of them were very open. So we were able to use those stories to generate coverage on some amazing sites. But it was just by, giving that exclusive to particular journalists. So it's very much, so that's what I mean about kind of feature pitching. It's so useful for generating those really high quality backlinks. And then on another note, one of the more kind of creative data-led campaigns we did a couple of years ago was for a price comparison site. And when the team were first talking about it, they were talking about kind of emissions around kind of Black Friday, or all the vans and all the increase in deliveries and stuff. And I remember thinking, this is a bit dry. Surely this is not going to get picked up for Black Friday. But actually it did, because through data, we managed to show that there was going to be X increase in emissions around Black Friday, and the negative consequence of everyone's kind of consumption. And that got picked up by the BBC, among kind of many other top tier titles. But that was because the data was so unique and there was no one else pitching any stories like that. So the more unique you can be with your angles, the better, especially around like really busy periods.
Yeah, actually, we're talking about, I had Julia Panozzo on here recently. And we're talking about negative stories and obviously stuff like that. Do they seem to do better than, obviously when you see the press, it's mainly negative stuff, isn't it? Let's be honest. And they're usually the ones that sell the most. Is it usually things with a bit of a negative touch on it that does better, do you find?
Yes, and it can depend on what it is, but I think everybody's, I don't know whether it's just the UK and it might be doing us a disservice, but I don't know whether it's some of the cynicism we can have as a nation. But I think there's a strong appetite for negative stories. And I've noticed kind of more of the opposite. When I'm in the US, it's very much about kind of, positive stories, or how, something's gone wrong, but the community have helped and it's become this kind of heroic story. But in the UK, definitely, especially with our experience with personal finance brands, which we specialize in, there's very much an appetite for anything that's negative. So we did another campaign with the same brand, where we looked at buy now, pay later sites and their impact on people's, obviously, bank balances, causing debt, and impact on kind of mental health in the long run. And again, that got picked up by all the top tier press. And there was a lot of data in there that was, very timely and credible. But it's such an important talking point. And a lot of brands don't want to make a stand on any of those buy now, pay later brands, or mention them in a negative way, because a lot of them are associated with them. So it was an opportunity for this brand to take a stand and say, we don't agree with buy now, pay later because of the negative impact it can have for people, and offering some tips for those who have been affected, etc., and be like, to be more ethical in that respect.
Yeah, no, cool. And also what came to mind is when people buy sort of featured sections in different publications, like Telegraph or whatever it is, does that still, it might not fall totally into digital PR, but in terms of PR wise, does that help sort of still in terms of like visibility and stuff? Or do you reckon it kind of, where do you sit with that, sort of having those sort of paid featured sections rather than like earning it as such?
Yeah, sure. So as an agency, we don't do any of the kind of paid features in that sense. I understand why people do it, and I can see that there's some value in it. However, I'd always argue that anything earned is going to be more trusted than something paid for. So if you are in front of your target audience, for example, with a campaign and it's data backed, and they can see that it's earned and it's not a paid sponsor, or they haven't taken out the front page of X or whatever it might be, then I think it's going to have more value for the brand in the long run.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, you see especially the younger generations now starting to, be a bit more aware of, paid promotions, influencers, and their kind of activities and stuff, and not so. Maybe other generations have fallen for it a bit easier and with it.
I think there is a lot of that, and I think in the past that was kind of the norm and to be expected. But I think now with social media and how we're talking about authenticity, people want to see something that's real, not something that's bought, because that's not what's real.
Yeah, and especially in today's crowded space, so much news and information around that. I mean, your job must be like extremely difficult to keep coming up with unique stuff. Obviously all us SEOs and content people are, the amount of information on the internet, it's now we're just trying to create unique information, and obviously that's like a big part of your role. So what's the biggest mistake you see brands making when trying to implement digital PR strategies?
Yeah, so there's a few things that we see happen, and again, not in any particular order, but a lot of the time we see brands kind of, begin digital PR, not really thinking strategically about how or where they want to see success. So they're thinking, well, if we do digital PR, or if we're just building links, for example, not through digital PR, then obviously we're building our backlink profile. We should be, increasing our rankings, etc. Things should be going in the right direction. However, that's much harder to measure success. Whereas if you take a more strategic, focused approach and look at, instead of just earning links to the homepage, you're earning links to commercial pages, then you're going to see the value of those commercial pages and the rankings associated with it increase much more quickly than you would just sending links to the homepage or a campaign page and then routing them through the site. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Popped up on my screen. Sorry, that's just one of them. And then the other thing we see happen a lot, and this tends to be with bigger brands, is not getting buy-in from the wider marketing team kind of early on. So this has happened with kind of big brands often. And it's that, obviously the SEOs are brought in to digital PR, but maybe other teams within the business aren't. So they aren't really aware or don't really understand what digital PR is and its benefits. And I think because of this, they don't really want to spend their time on it, or they put blockers in the way. So we sometimes find that, if there's too many cooks as part of activity, if there's too many people that are signing off content, it never goes out, or by the time you get it back, there's so many changes that your content is unrecognizable and you've lost that angle that you were pitching, for example. And also, if there's an internal PR team, what we find is if the PR team aren't brought in early enough, then they can often feel guarded about what the digital PR agency is doing, and they can place this only happens sometimes, they can place blockers in the way. So for example, they might be like, well, you can't cover that topic because we're covering that topic at this time, and we've got XX going out and we don't want you to get in the way of that, and we don't want you to be contacting kind of their journalists. So they might have their black book and they're like, well, you can't contact them, you can't contact them, and you can't contact them. So what you can end up with is a media list that goes from about this to about this, and then it really limits what you can do. So the earlier SEOs can bring in the wider marketing team and kind of do that education before hiring a digital PR agency, the better, really.
Yeah, I've definitely come across some of those issues in my own career in terms of, well, one, obviously, getting other teams involved and collaborating and understanding the benefits of digital PR and why we need their input, and then also some gatekeepers kind of making it, like I say, changing content so much that it's not really that unique piece that the journalists are going to want to pick up anyway. And then also, like you say, it'd be really interesting how you go around that PR teams, because, I find when this digital PR sort of strategy campaigns, they're a lot different to a normal PR, department in an organization. What they're doing day to day is, and okay, it might be at sometimes that you're going after the same journalist or the same publication, but the strategy, the objective is totally different. So it's like trying to convince them that we're not stepping on their toes. We're just doing something that crosses over, but it's not the same thing. We're not going to ruin any relationships. It's just
exactly. And the best experiences we've had are where we've worked with the PR team and the SEO team, like collaboratively. So for example, we've worked with Gusto and Tails.com, and we've worked very closely with both the teams there, and the PR team is very brought in to kind of what we're doing, what we want to achieve. And, there's very much, clear communication as to when things are going out their side, so no one steps on anyone else's toes. It's very kind of respectful and collaborative and sharing of ideas and things like that. And that's when it works best, when everyone's on kind of the same team, kind of working together.
Yeah, and it includes, like, obviously your campaigns work better when you've got access to data that you can analyze and put into. And obviously, if you can't get hold of that, then it's going to make your life very difficult. So, and then, like you said as well, and I'm sure I've done this mistake but obviously going after just general, like, keywords or key terms or topics that you want to rank higher for, but you're not really got that strategy behind it, that your kind of objectives and KPIs behind it. You're not driving them to, like you say, commercial driven pages or whatever. It's all these things now. Like Google and so on have got the way that people use search engines and the way that their algorithms work. And so it's become a lot more intelligent than just. So you need to be, your strategies need to be more intelligent and more focused. So
100%. Yeah, and on that note, I mean, I normally say the word relevance, multiple times during a sentence, but I think that's where relevance becomes so important. So when you're earning links, it's great to have those top tier links, but also you need those really strong, relevant industry links as well, kind of pointing to your site, because that's what Google's looking for, the relevance between sites, to see that there's a good reason for that link being in there as well. So there needs to be that thread there, between your campaign, the brand, and the target audience.
Yeah, I mean, James was also saying about relevance over and over again. I mean, it is, and I've seen it, when we've linked to like just a smaller sort of, obviously we're a large cancer, but charity, and when we've kind of reached out to smaller, more targeted charities that focus on different cancer types, and we've secured a link back to our resources about that particular cancer type. We've seen growth in terms of like visibility and stuff because of, and it doesn't matter about the domain authority and just about, we don't even take that into account. We obviously we need to make sure that they're a reputable sort of website and organization, but apart from that, it was just about getting that link and pointing it back to our relevant content, and we saw the results. So because there's plenty of let's say, not the best websites in the world that have higher DAs, you know. So you can't just take that as
no, it shouldn't be the only metric you're concerned with. It should be kind of one of many. And like you say, it can only take a handful of really relevant links to move the needle quite dramatically. And that's why I think it's much more important we focus on quality and relevance than just building a ton of links for the sake of it.
Yeah, we've seen recently with Forbes and other websites how they can crash down, and probably that's probably going to happen a lot more often by the sounds of it. Google seems to be on a mission now to take down any of those sort of affiliate-based websites. So we'll see how that goes. Well, you kind of touched upon this. I know you got anything to add, but I'll say it anyway. But how has collaboration between SEO and PR teams evolved, and what advice would you give to brands trying to align these efforts? So I guess a bit different. Obviously, I just talk about my personal, but so we do work closely with PR. But it is tricky because we do work slightly differently. Obviously, PR have their mainly work to a calendar based, or there's campaigns going out or large pieces of news that come up, and we're more kind of like work with other teams when campaigns, you know, when certain sort of migrations happen or new content being added to the site, or, you know, so we're more like collaborative with other like content based, you know, projects going on. We're not so much revolved around the news and sort of whatever it is, you know, reactive pieces to the news. So obviously we do that kind of thing, but we're more prompted by other teams to get us involved to help with the optimization stuff. So we do try and keep up with the PR team, and obviously, but it is tricky because obviously we work in slightly different, different timelines, I guess. But it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think it's evolved the relationship between SEO and PRs enough, since we tend to experience the same things we were experiencing 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I do think there's an onus on SEOs generally to do a better job communicating the role of SEO within the business and why digital PR is important as part of that. And I think the earlier you can do that, the better. And we're happy, you know, what often happens is brands come to us and say, you know, we've started talking about this in our business, but what can you send us so, you know, the business understands digital PR and what it can do for us? So we're helping kind of SEO teams educate the wider business through the sharing of case studies, you know, just explaining what we do and how we do it, the tactical side of it, how it kind of some of it stems from traditional PR, etc., to give it more credibility and things. But it's still too late, in my opinion, for us to be getting involved in that conversation. And I think really brands should only get a digital PR agency involved once that conversation has been had. Everyone knows kind of what, you know, the benefits are, what success might look like, and once budgets have been set as well. Because a lot of the time at the moment, we're being approached before even they've had the conversation with management of the FD about budgets too. So I feel like we're going backwards at the moment, and I think it's probably a consequence of the economy, of budgets decreasing, there being more pressure on SEOs to be able to show the value of digital PR activity and things. So I think it's environmental, some of it, but I do think the earlier those conversations can be had, you know, inside brands, the better.
Yeah, I think with me, what the PR team we're really good with is that, obviously, like you say, we've kind of told them about educating them around SEO and also the impact they have towards the you know, the SEO results. So and they've actually been really good at like now reviewing how they do things around, you know, when they put out press releases or whatever, around making sure that those SEO considerations are in place to try and boost those signals that we're trying to you know. And also I think it's clear, like we need to make clear with them as well, is that PR obviously have their day-to-day things that they're going on. It's very important, and again, can influence the SEO impact of we, like say the signals that we want. But then digital PR is more targeted, more strategic. So if we want to go after a certain, goal or objective KPI, we can target and go after that, where PR haven't really usually got time to do that kind of thing because they're focused on a lot of other things going on, other campaigns or news coming up or whatever. So it's, I think they can work tandem. But I think that educational piece, and obviously we hear that so often in SEO when we're working with different teams, is just about discussing with them how and what they bring to the table in terms of SEO, and also SEO is understanding the power of, these different things as well. Not being stuck in our siloed of SEO only, because digital PR now is so important, social media, all these things. And in terms of how do you stay ahead of industry trends, and what recent developments have significantly impacted digital PR campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a very interesting year for our industry, with all the updates and the challenges that AI is throwing into the search landscape. But from a digital PR perspective, I think this is where the brand and the story you're pitching become even more important. And I think the engagement that a pitch or the campaign should offer should be the best it can be in order to get that cut through. And I'm not sure whether I'm explaining this very well, but I think whatever goes on kind of in search, whatever happens in the press, how you put together your campaigns, whether you're using AI or whatever it might be to improve efficiencies, I think the narrative of that story should always be paramount. But just because it's so competitive these days, you've got most brands doing digital PR, so you're competing with everyone. Like, a few years ago, it wasn't as well known, so there wasn't as much competition. Where now when we work with brands, we're all looking at each other's kind of link gaps and where there's opportunities and things like that. So it wasn't as tightly knit, I guess, in the past. So I think that's just where the strength of good stories comes through, really engaging content and really focusing on the brand and not just thinking about backlinks. So every pitch you send out should be an opportunity to build credibility and awareness for that brand, to build trust, or to really kind of engage and, create something really fun too.
Yeah, actually on that point, because it is so competitive and a lot of people are picking up on the kind of digital PR sort of, stuff, then how do you make sure that you kind of cut through that noise in terms of getting through to the journalist or the editor or whatever, making sure that they pick up your piece rather than, all the others?
Yeah, so there's a few things that come in here. I think, again, I probably sound like a broken record, but the best quality content should win out over the rest. Unique data, so data that nobody else has, because you're not pitching the same data that some other agency or some other brand is pitching. The more unique you can make that angle or story. So if you can have a position that's not everybody else's position within the marketplace, then that should help you stand out with journalists. And then also kind of the relationships you've built already with journalists, them knowing what you bring to the table, that you've got good quality data, that you've got experts to back up what you're saying. All those things should put you at the top of the pile if you're pitching something similar to another brand. So then it goes back to kind of relationships too, and, pitching, good quality content, really.
Yeah, I suppose relationships is probably where that makes it the difference, I guess, if the journalist knows you. But it must be, I can imagine how many emails and stuff the top journalists get. It must be overwhelming times.
It must be crazy. And then another thing I meant to mention, obviously, is being timely. So if you're newsjacking, for example, and if you're doing a personal finance newsjack around kind of budget day, then you're going to be competing with thousands of others. So you need to get yours out the quickest. And then if that journalist comes back to you and asks for additional information or whatever they need to build, to include your brand in there, then you need to jump on that and make sure that comes back to them, well within the time frame that they're asking, because otherwise you just lose out on the opportunity completely. And this comes back to kind of how you set up your digital PR activity with the client, how quickly they can sign things off. And if they haven't got the ability to sign things off really quickly, then what we do is we establish a bank of content that's already been signed off, and then we can just dip into it whenever we need to, knowing that that's fine, we don't need to worry about it, and we can get that out there immediately.
Nice. And the 2 points that come to my mind. So firstly, like to say, that's interesting. Do you send like a kind of pre-story with, like, you say you've got more stuff to come to kind of get there at the front? I don't want to give away all your secrets.
So I think I've done that anyway.
Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah. So for example, when we start working with a client, we ask kind of what their topical expertise or authority is, what content they've got. We'll look through, all their insight, research, blogs, etc., to see what we can repurpose, because that's already been signed off, that's already out there. And then we'll also ask them, see what data they have. We'll get specific data signed off. We'll get, their experts to provide tips, get that signed off. And it might be on a whole variety of topics, but topics we know come up quite frequently. And therefore, we know there's a good opportunity for that to be pitched later on. But, going back to budget day, say budget day is kind of coming up, and they are a personal finance brand, or they're very linked to that, or their industry might be affected by the budget, then ahead of time, you can try and anticipate what might come up in the budget based on what's going on in the news. And then you can kind of put together a collection of content that fits a variety of scenarios. So, it involves some work, but it's very worthwhile because it can help you secure that really good quality kind of top tier coverage.
And do you ever turn away clients if you think they're going to be not exactly that easy to get that information from?
We occasionally turn away clients that we know might be difficult. So if we're getting a hint that they're going to challenge us at every point, more for the sake of it than for good reason, then we might be like, yeah, we don't think this is a good fit. Because if we're kind of guaranteeing a specific, link KPI, then we want to ensure that we have the best opportunity to exceed that, or hit it and exceed that. And if we take on a client that we know is going to be really challenging, then we're getting in the way of ourselves hitting that kind of KPI, and we don't want to be in that position. So yeah, occasionally we do say, yeah, we don't think we're the agency for you on this occasion. And as part of our sales process, we ask questions about, who will be the main point of contact? How much time do you have to look at content, to sign off content? How quickly can you reply to us? How can we communicate with you? Should we phone you? Is it Slack? So we need to get to grips with how all these little elements will work to know what kind of tactics that we can deliver for that brand.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw you in it, but I've seen examples in my own career where it would make sense to me if they said that, because it just was so. It can become so difficult that no one wins really at the end of the day.
Exactly. Both parties lose out.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to have a career in digital PR right now?
Oh, good question. I think it's such a competitive industry at the moment. So I think, you just need to be really tenacious. It's not the easiest career, but it can be very fun, I think. and the rewards from, you know, generating, you know, some of the campaigns we put together and some of the links we get off the back of them are amazing. And to know that you built those links and, you know, your client's happy is really rewarding. And we saw a client testimonial come through this morning for one of our team, and it was just like, oh, we're really impressed with you, we're loving everything you're doing. And just getting those little bits of feedback from the client, you know, let alone the kind of links you're building, is really cool. But yeah, I think because it's so competitive, you do need to have a thick skin if possible. You need to be looking at the news all the time on social media, looking at trends, what's going to become a trend, so you can kind of jump on that before everybody else does. And just a real fascination with brands as well, how they work. And also, depending on what your role would be and who you work with, relationships are really important. Knowing how to talk to different kinds of people is very useful in our industry. And, you know, it's not essential, but, you know, having an eye for data is really helpful. Being able to kind of pick out angles from data isn't easy. And it's something that, you know, we can train, but it comes to some people much more easily than others.
I'm sure that models like ChatGPT have helped in
yes
analyzing data.
Yeah, definitely. And I meant to mention AI. It's in my notes, but obviously AI is, you know, I know, you know, there's agencies testing AI for the entire digital PR process with mixed results from what I've heard. But we're definitely using AI as part of that to make, you know, parts of the process much more efficient. You know, I wouldn't want to do it for every part, because, you know, you still need those creative ideas. You still need to be able to pick out what you think are the best angles based on whatever ChatGPT serves as, you know, the top 10 headlines for whatever topic. So you still need to kind of decide what you think is going to have the most impact. But yeah, an interest in AI and using AI to kind of evolve how you work, I think, is really helpful too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at this stage anyway that AI could do what you lot are doing anyway, because, you know, they're taking information from on their sources on the internet. So coming out of a unique idea is pretty much impossible for them, because they're coming up with what's already there and trying to. They might be able to come up with some good ideas, but whether it be that unique, I'm skeptical. And then and obviously then they haven't got that personal touch that obviously a human has.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to kind of look at it from an emotional perspective as what might really resonate with people, and then how to bring out the emotion.
Yeah, so I think jobs are safe for now, but definitely on the data analysis side, it's definitely good. So in your opinion, what does the future hold for digital PR, and how should professionals prepare for the upcoming changes? Well, we're already kind of in the middle of changes, but
yeah, do you know what? I think the future is very different in different places. So having just spent a week at Brighton SEO in San Diego, I feel like, you know, the US is quite behind in digital PR, and there's still a lack of understanding of what it is. There's still a lot of link buying going on, you know, in the UK, as you know, in the States, but much more prevalently in the States. And, you know, digital PR is beginning to filter into the conversation. And I know there's brands kind of, you know, or there's agencies offering digital PR on the East Coast, and brands also, you know, getting in touch with us for digital PR. But predominantly, you know, link buying is still a massive focus for brands and freelancers, despite everything that's been happening with all the updates this year. So I think, depending on where you are in the world, I think definitely for the UK anyway, and for the clients we work with, I think the future is very much just about quality. Relevance will become more and more important as all the AI becomes better at understanding kind of what brands do, the role of people, and not everything else within it. But also, you know, looking at digital PR as a vehicle for also building brand fame, which is something we're really focused on. So not just building links, but what else can we achieve? How can we elevate the brand further? And how can we constantly get the brand in the press to increase brand recall and therefore brand share of search and all the other lovely bits that go with it? So I'm hoping it's going to be much more tactical, and it's going to be less about, the old-fashioned link metrics and more of a kind of holistic overview of what digital PR can truly do if done well, I guess.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Obviously, I feel like, in the past when there's been like people buying links or whatever, obviously there's like parent blogs and guest posting blogs and that kind of thing. I don't think there's gonna be a space on the internet, much space for them anymore. So I don't think that's gonna even be an option to go to. I think you're gonna have to have a pretty strong sort of focus on things like, well, obviously good content that's updated regularly, that's actually unique and interesting and follows all the EAT sort of hallmarks. And I think some of the smaller sites we've seen like have lost a lot of visibility in the last year or so, and to pick that up, so I think those days are going to be gone pretty much in the future. So yeah, it's like yourself and James said, it's going to be 100% about relevancy, and obviously, it's going to be an interesting one for all of us. And obviously, it'd be interesting how new search engines like Search GPT come into it and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, exactly, because they're not just kind of helping us do our work, they're actually kind of creating some challenges, but also some opportunities, I think, for brands that, who want to be forward thinking and, who appreciate, sorry, my cat's just gotten in the way, for brands who appreciate, it's for SEOs who appreciate kind of the role of brand within all this too. I think there's huge opportunities within that, especially with the way we're consuming content differently and the way we're using websites differently. Having been at San Diego and heard Rand Fishkin and what he was saying, looked like what would happen and is actually happening to some extent now. The role website's going to play is a bit more different, and therefore we need to think about how kind of campaigns, keywords, rankings, everything we do kind of fits into that. And again, that's where I think it comes back to kind of quality and a focus on the brand.
Yeah, and if you look at like Search GPT, when you type in like a thing that's going on right now, it could be something in the news right now, and you search about it using their kind of new Search GPT sort of functionality, you'll see like all the latest sources and when they got found and stuff, and that's going to be like you say, that could transform your like when you're doing newsjacking and stuff like that, you'll be front of mind of like everyone, because that would be like they'll be picking up that piece if you get it in the right places. So could be really interesting. So what, just the last one now, and I'll let you go. But what inspired you to create the Missing Link webinar series, and what impact do you think do you feel it's had on the digital PR community?
So we created the Missing Link webinar kind of at the beginning of, I think it was like March 2020, when kind of the first lockdown started, I think, because obviously we couldn't do anything in person, and we just felt there was an opportunity to, from selfishly, from a marketing perspective, we're like, there's an opportunity for us to do a webinar, to get ourselves out there, to bring industry people together, and to, just have some honest conversations about digital PR and SEO. And sometimes I think I'm a bit too honest about what happens in our industry, might be to my detriment, but I'm always interested in hearing how other people do things, what they're bringing to the table, that sharing of knowledge. And at the time, I felt like it created a little community. People had somewhere to go, and people were saying hello to each other in the chat. And it was very nice. and it was so friendly and welcoming, and yeah, so I felt like it was a little bit of a lifeline for digital PRs during that time.
That's cool. And all the links will be in the description. So if you want to connect with Jane and check all that out, and obviously it'll be linked to the book if you want to.
Yeah, we'll have a link to the book.
And also, I think that we will be giving away a couple of copies on LinkedIn, so do feel free to follow me on there, and I'll give you more information on that. And yeah, if you're interested in hearing more about the digital PR community down the line, because obviously the SEO community is well, it's quite big, and obviously you probably know about it, but at times it can be an interesting place.
Yes, some lively debate again.
Yeah, but yeah, thanks again. Is there, I guess, to finish up, is there anything coming up in your world? Any more
good
chat?
question. So yes, there is. I can't say too much about it, but we do have our own video series, YouTube series, planned for early next year, which again will involve us kind of talking to other industry experts and having some really open and honest conversations. That's the hope, to dig beneath the surface and find out what's really going on. So we've already got some guests lined up, so it should be really good. So look out for that.
Yeah, cool. And obviously follow Jane on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll find all that information first. So yeah, thanks again, Jane. And
thanks for having me.
thank you.